Hello and welcome to part 23 of me teaching you how to get better at a certain Roblox game. This time we have Roblox Era Warfare, and I will be teaching you how to beat the Abandoned Payload Map from the two teams. Now this is going to be a short series that will be split into two separate videos. The first part I will dedicate to teach you how to beat the map in the red team, and the second part will be the same but with the blue team. But before I will teach you about how to win this map using the red team, you need to know a couple of things. Firstly, the classes that you need. You have the Caveman, which is the scout class of the game. He has a lot of speed, making him very annoying to deal damage against him, since most of the shots you will make are going to miss unless you have incredible accuracy and reaction speed. He can act as a distraction and either slow or accelerate the payload depending on which team you are on. Next, we have the Sniper, or the Knight. He has the ability to shoot from afar and headshot enemies with the sniper or charge with great amounts of speed onto the enemy. He can be useful when your team is pushing, since he can snipe the enemies, which will one-shot them if you headshot or you charge and deal about 200 damage. This is an estimate. Next, we have the Heavy, or Demolitionist, or the Cowboy. He is the tanky class of the game and will deal a lot of damage with his Gatling/grenade launcher. He is a key component of a push, since he can and will be able to act as a meat shield if a medic will heal him. Even if he won't act as a meat shield for the allies, he will still shred the enemies using his weapons. Next, we have the Soldier, or Pyro. He specializes in AoE weapons just like Heavy, but he uses flamethrowers and rocket launchers instead. He is useful when trying to break down an enemy push, since rockets can be directed instead of just being launched and hoping that the enemy will touch it. The flamethrowers are useful not necessarily to kill enemies, but to weaken them. Next, we have the Engineer/the Spy. He is the guy that can build stuff that will help the team or sneak up on enemies and one-shot them using a melee weapon behind the enemy's back. He can build a sentry which will shoot enemies. He has the enter and exit portal so you can use them to teleport to places. He also has a dispenser which will give you health and construction points if you pick the Engineer class. If you are a spy, you can destroy the enemy sentries, dispensers, and teleporters just by using a C4. Secondly, we have the Shop. When you win or lose a round, you will be given coins. With these coins, you can then go to the shop and buy yourself guns for the specific classes. The guns that you buy have specific buffs and debuffs. The effectiveness of these guns mostly rely on your playstyle, so they are not really paid to win, but there are specific guns and equipment that are superior from the original gun. For example, the Iron Bomber for demo. Its projectiles have little to no roll and does massive damage in a field radius. Or the Last Stand Cannon, again for demo, which has fast fire rate for a grenade cannon, and if you know how projectile ricochet physics work in this game, you can exploit it for your own benefit. Overall, the distribution of classes per 10 players in the red team should be 3 demos, 1 spy, 3 engineers, 2 cavemen, and 1 soldier. Now let's get into the main part. So how to beat the abandoned map from the red team. Now in this specific map, the red team wins more than the blue team, but the red team can lose if it isn't competent enough. Also note that for red team specific, it can win in any phase except phase 0. I'm just showing you how to deal with those phases. Phase 0. Preparation. If you pick the engineer class, you should start building enter portals near the red team spawn and then go towards the payload and start building sentries and exit portals. First quick tip, it is important that you build them near spots that have ammo and medkits, since when you run out of construction points, you will just need to get to the ammo box and half of your construction points will be restored, meaning you will be able to continue to build and not go far away to get ammo boxes, which will waste your time. And it will also mean that your allies nearby will be able to heal and get ammo as well. Second quick tip, place the stuff that you build in a spot that the enemy will not notice or destroy, such as near walls, choke points, windows, etc., so that the enemy will not destroy the stuff that you built that fast. Third quick tip, when you get out of the main spawn, you will see another door. That door is a shortcut to getting to the enemy base and it will only close in Phase 3, so you shouldn't go around it until then. If there aren't any spots with medkits and ammo boxes nearby, place a dispenser in the position that it's far away from the medkits and ammo boxes. That way you will still gain construction points while also healing and getting ammo, and not run towards the ammo boxes and medkits that are far away. You should also upgrade all the stuff that you built to level 3, preferably sentries, as they deal damage, and at level 3 they fire rockets as well. Meanwhile, the demos on your team should go on top of the mountain, aim at the enemy gate correctly, and wait until the enemy gate is about to open. When the timer on the top is at 1 to 2 seconds, the demos should start firing at the gate so that when Phase 1 comes, the enemy will immediately get damaged. Phase 1. Payload push. The enemies will start to push the payload, and the demos on the mountain should fire by now. Meanwhile, the enemies will try to get to the hill and kill the demos and the engineers. So almost everyone should defend the hill except the spy and the demos. They should be the ones who will need to take care of the payload push by backstabbing enemies and blowing them up. If the enemies get to the tunnel, half of the demos should focus their firing on the tunnel because it is much easier to blow enemies up in tight spaces. If the enemies still get the hill and everyone weren't able to deal damage to them, the engineer should immediately start building the sentries, relocating if possible into choke point after the checkpoint. Phase 2. Choke point. If you are a demo, you should start hiding in the walls of the choke point and start firing grenades whenever an enemy push tries to push the payload. Meanwhile, the engineers need to finish building/relocating the sentries and build new exit portals in the choke point, while the rest should protect alternative passages that the enemies will try to get to. It is especially needed to defend the choke point considering that the shortcut door will close if the enemy captures the choke point, forcing you to go around it and the enemy will spawn there instead, which is bad. Phase 3. Mostly straight trail. When the enemy captures the second checkpoint, everyone should go to the building that offers the greater medkits with ammo, and fortify it by putting sentries in the front doorway and dispensers near the windows. Meanwhile, everyone else except the caveman and the spy should fire at the enemies that will try pushing the payload as well as getting into the building itself, while the caveman and the spy will need to eliminate the enemies below the building. Final phase. Near the explosive zone. Once the enemies get the third checkpoint, if you pick the engineer class, you need to go to the building with the shortcut door, go up the ladder, and the other engineers should focus on another building that has a great sniper view where the enemies can snipe allies from and fortify them before the enemies take it. Meanwhile, the demos need to fire immediately into the mini choke point that is after the third checkpoint and try to kill as many enemies as possible. If the enemy still gets through the choke point, everyone on the red team needs to focus all their powers on stopping this payload from moving at all and not allowing any enemy to push it. Meanwhile, the engineers need to repair any of their stuff and not allowing any enemy to get through via alternative passages. If the timer runs out, then congrats! You won! You've learned everything to beat the abandoned map using the red team.